Today we're here with Dr. Jill Stein, who's a presidential candidate who has made it on the ballot on how many states so far for the Green Party?
21 and counting.
Right.
Hopefully up to 42, 46, maybe even 48.
Now you've won every primary so far, right?
Exactly, by landslide margins, I'm glad to say.
So it looks like you're going to go all the way. Well, that's the way we're over. So I'd like to talk to you about a few issues. I've been basically researching this since 2000. Basically, not only presidential elections, but congressional elections, and senatorial elections, and gubernatorial elections. And I've seen candidate exclusion that's really, I've found quite disheartening, even at sometimes by arrest, if necessary. I'm just even for candidates to refuse the debates. So, how many state ballots are you shooting for? And would you like to? Do you think you have a chance to get into those debates? I mean, would you like to push for that?
Yeah. So, in terms of state ballot lines, we're shooting for as many as we can get. We hope we'll get 42, maybe 46, or maybe even 48. And you know, it is, I think, the strength and of the Green Party and a real tribute to the party that we have organizations all over the all over the country that are invested in our democracy and are determined that ordinary people will have a voice in this election. That's what it comes down to, because the other candidates on the ballot are all going to be corporate powered and Wall Street powered, and it means more of the same. So, you know, the Green Party is the one survivor that has survived this incredible era of political repression, where in so many ways the powers that be suppress the voice, not just of candidates, but of ordinary members of society, ordinary Americans who need health care as a human right, who need education as a human right, who need their housing, who need a job with decent wages. You know, this is why we fight these battles, and that's what the Green Party is about. I'm glad to say we have in just about all states, we now have ballot drives going on. So I'm very hopeful that we will get on the ballot in most states.
Last time around, Ralph Nader, the only Oklahomans they were the only ones who didn't have the choice of voting for him as write-in or somehow. So let's hope you get on enough. Basically, like I said, I've seen this kind of censorship over the years. So I just want to quickly, I know you're in a hurry, so let's touch on three issues. One of which came up today, actually, and that was about reverting the tax rate from 35% for the top 1% of income earners on their highest income to 39.6%, which it was before Bush had lowered them. Now, that rate was 91% in the year 1960. What is your position on this?
We need to do the numbers. That alone is not going to do it. I mean, that's a step in the right direction. But look, the top 1% is making out like bandits here. You know, they tripled over the last couple decades. They actually tripled their share of income. It went from like 9% up to like 24% of income, all going to just the top 1%. And that's just income. Because if you look at income over time, that becomes wealth. The top 1% has the wealth of 90% of the population. One has what 90 have? That's just not fair, and that's not sustainable, and that's the direction we're proceeding in whole hog. So a number of steps need to be taken to give ordinary working people a fair shake. Why should there be this massive gushing upward? It's not a trickle down of wealth, it's a massive gushing upwards of wealth, taking from ordinary working people who are basically subsidizing the very, very rich to get very, very richer. So we need to connect it. I'd like to see what the numbers are, going to 39% from 35. That's great, but we need to tax those at the top more. We need to have a truly progressive income tax so that millionaires are paying more than quarter millionaires and billionaires are paying more than millionaires. And besides, I should make one other point. The real income at the top is coming from capital gains. It's not coming from wages. So there's no way that we're going to fix this without addressing the need to treat capital gains like income. Once you start doing that, because right now capital gains has been whittled and whittled away. It used to be 40%, it's now down to, what, 15%. So that needs to be brought up at least to the level of wages. And that's a start. We need a Wall Street transaction tax so that we don't have this reckless this reckless waste, fraud, and abuse on Wall Street. And that will go a long way to put money back into the pockets of ordinary people.
That rate had been as high as 94% under Eisenhower. And then Kennedy hacked it to 70, and then Reagan took it to 28, and then finally they realized they had, actually with Senior Bush, who upped it back to 39.6. It was really incredible that they get away with this. Okay, so two more quickly. Cannabis. I remember asking Ralph Nader about this in 2004. I mean, it's you know, arguably it could actually decrease a lot of our reliance on foreign fuel, if not all. I mean, some people have said all. Those, I guess, there's probably further studies that need to be done. But even Ralph had admitted to me that it would, you know, give us billions and billions of dollars of increased income, which would be a nice shot in the arm for all the other uses it has also. So what's your position on hemp?
I agree with all of what you've said, that there's enormous potential in hemp for a number of industries. It really is a jobs growth industry in many ways. Food, particularly, there's some very important nutrients in hemp. Right. Food, fiber, and potentially biofuels, although there are some issues there about food supplies and so on. So, but the potential is there
because it's so much more efficient.
That may be,
the biomass.
You may be absolutely right,
yeah,
and it is something that we should, you know, that should be a priority to be looking, you know, to be exploring right now, and to be doing research on that. But for me, as a medical doctor, the most compelling reason to legalize marijuana is a health reason, and that is because marijuana is a dangerous drug because it's illegal. It's not illegal because it's dangerous, and there's enormous danger and hazard that attaches to it because it is illegal, like the incredible culture of violence that surrounded alcohol when alcohol was under prohibition and it was illegal.
And our prison industrial complex. I mean, people are subjected to horrors. Actually, I've talked to former Senator Mike Gravel about this. He's saying they go in, you know, not really criminals, but they come out hardened criminals. They have to fight to survive. And you know, there's Senator Webb who's on the exit now, but even he said, you know, he went to Japan, and there wasn't the violence between the prisoners and the other prisoners, more between the prisoners and the guards like we see here. And yet, you know, rapes are joked about on situation comedies and so forth. It's not fun. I mean, there's over 800,000 arrests each year for cannabis. And that's roughly the same amount of kids who go missing each year. And I say that, you know, by simple deductive reasoning, you'd be finding more of these kids.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's really inefficient. I was a chiropractic physician. I just know from a physician's standpoint, this is just insanity.
It absolutely is, and it's extremely, you know, not only the violence surrounding the criminal drug culture, and you actually pull the rug out from under that by legalizing marijuana, because marijuana is the workhorse of the whole drug industry. So just by legalizing that one drug, you basically take the revenues out of the entire criminal drug culture. Not entirely, but in large measure, enough to really, you know, help slow it down in a big way. But in addition to the violence, you know, there's a whole additional issue of effectively the racist criminal justice system. I should say the criminal injustice system, and the way that this war is used to fill our jails with African Americans and Latinos and people of color in general. This is devastating on a human rights basis. It's devastating to communities of color where, you know, just an outrageous number, I think it's 1 out of every 3 African American men is either in jail on probation or on parole. So this has been absolutely devastating to an entire community, and the entire war on drugs has been used in a very racist manner, and for that reason as well needs to be ended by legalizing, regulating, and taxing marijuana. Nobody out on the street is checking the ID of your kid to make sure that they are old enough to be purchasing marijuana on the street. However, in a legalized, through legalized and regulated use, you know, uses by minors will be a thing of the past. So there are many, you know, there are just many things to be gained by legalizing and regulating marijuana. Thank you.
Great.
I'm going to have
Best
to
of
run.
luck.
Yeah,
Hopefully
thank
I
you
see
so much.
Quite a bit more during this coming year.